everyone, welcome to episode 25 of the Willow Cove Crafts podcast, a podcast about knitting and sewing and my journey to creating a handmade wardrobe and home. My name is Emily, and you can find me on both Ravelry and Instagram as Willow Cove Crafts. Today is Tuesday, March 8th. And I am coming to you from just outside of Madison in Verona, Wisconsin. It has been a little over 2 weeks since I last reported, and it has been a bit of a whirlwind since then. Before I really get into things today, I did want to take a moment to acknowledge what is happening in Ukraine right now. I really have no words, and I know that a lot of you are probably feeling very similarly to how I am feeling right now. It's a very sad and scary situation, and filming a podcast episode feels very frivolous in terms of what is happening in the world right now. But in times of trouble, I personally find a lot of comfort in watching some of my favorite crafty podcasts. And so I decided to film an episode today, and, maybe this will provide a little bit of distraction from the news. But yeah. I don't really have anything else to say. I'm no expert in foreign policy or foreign war, but this whole thing is really, really distressing, and my heart goes out to everyone who has been directly affected by what is going on. On a more personal note, the last 2 weeks have been quite eventful for me as I had and am recovering from surgery. So you may have noticed the new addition to my appearance. So in case you are new here or would like a little bit of a recap, I have a condition called thoracic outlet syndrome. I think after having this surgery, I'm officially cured, maybe? But anyways, what that essentially means is the main vein in my shoulder that connects my heart to my arm was getting compressed between my collarbone and my first rib. And when that happens over time, there's a lot of friction, the vein rubs on the bone, the walls of the vein can thicken, and it narrows the canal of the vein slowly over time. And at some point, that vein becomes too small and too narrow to adequately supply your arm with blood, or it's a vein, so, it's the blood that's coming from your arm back to your lungs. So anyways, it becomes too small, and that can lead to blood pooling. And then once your blood starts pooling, it can lead to a blood clot. And then once you have a blood clot, the big concern is that a piece of that clot will break off and travel to your lungs, causing a pulmonary embolism. So I actually had a pulmonary embolism in November. I had several of them, which is a very serious medical condition. I think something like 25% of people that have a pulmonary embolism, the first symptom is sudden death. It's a pretty intense, scary condition. I got very lucky. So anyways, I had the embolism, and then, after lots of tests and imaging, we determined that the root cause of my embolism was coming from my shoulder, where I was having this vein compression. So in order to treat that, they go in and surgically remove the first rib. Your first rib structurally is not super important. You can definitely live a completely normal life without it. Even now, I'm still recovering, but I feel pretty much the same as I did before. So yeah, they go in and remove it, and then that kind of takes out the floor of this space that is squishing on that vein. So I had that surgery 2 weeks ago from yesterday, and everything went super smooth, with a little bit of an exception. So they planned on performing an angioplasty while they were in there, and what that basically means is they put what is essentially like a little balloon in the vein and then puff it up with air to try and reopen that vein, because again, the vein is narrowed. So they basically try to stretch it open a little bit to get it back to its normal function. They were unable to perform an angioplasty on me because my vein was completely blocked off. It had completely scarred over. It was not functional. And once it's scarred, it's basically done for. So my subclavian vein in my shoulder is completely kaput. It's not working anymore. And so typically, and this is kind of cool, I hope this isn't oversharing, but I thought this was pretty amazing. So they can repair veins. They'll go take a vein from your leg and, you know, put it in place of the scarred vein. But my body had started growing a new vein, which to me is like kind of crazy. Like, I knew your body could regrow blood vessels, but I didn't realize it could essentially regrow major blood vessels. So my surgeon said after I woke up that they didn't even bother trying to repair my vein because my body had already grown a whole network of new veins, including one in particular that was almost to the same size as my original vein. And so he said, you know, surgically we take out the rib, we open up that space, and just let your body do its thing. It's been doing a really good job of trying to fix itself up to this point. So I thought that was really cool. And I was like proud of my shoulder. Like, that's such a weird thing to say. But yeah, over time, hopefully that network of veins grows and my blood flow will restore to normal. So yes, that is that. Recovery has been not nearly as bad as I imagined it would be. I was in the hospital for 2 nights, and I think the worst of it was actually just like being hooked up to all of the monitoring machines. And then also I had a drain. So when they operate on your chest cavity, you know, there's a lot of healing and a lot of fluids happening, and you don't want to have a lot of fluid build up in your chest cavity because that's really bad for you, I guess. So I had this tube that was like literally sticking out of my chest and connected to this little like box type thing. That was where, you know, the fluid kind of came out and collected in this container. And it didn't hurt. It sounds like really painful and gross to have this like tube hanging out of your body, but it really wasn't that bad pain-wise. But just like having it there was super annoying. And anytime I wanted to like get up and go to the bathroom, go for a walk, I had to like carry around my little container like a little suitcase and take it with me everywhere. And yeah, the tube, I was just like worried about like snagging it on things, and then obviously like IVs are not fun. Just having all this like stuff hanging out of my body was probably the worst part. I was pretty uncomfortable the first few days. I would describe it more as discomfort than pain. My neck was really stiff, and then I also was having a lot of trouble breathing. I still don't think my lung capacity is quite back to normal. Even sitting here talking to you, I'm feeling a little more short of breath than I normally would. But it's all coming back. I can turn my head again, which was not something I was able to do 2 weeks ago. And yeah, just over the last couple weeks, recovery has gone really smoothly. My range of motion is pretty much back to normal. Things still feel very stiff and swollen throughout the front of my chest and into my neck. But the rate of recovery has been kind of amazing. So I anticipate I will be pretty much back to normal in a couple weeks. Yes, I was able to knit almost immediately. I did not knit in the hospital just because I had, again, all of these lines and drains hanging off of my body. But as soon as I got home, I just reclined and stabilized my head. Again, most of my discomfort was in my neck, and I had a hard time kind of holding my head up for long periods of time. So I would just get the cushions right and kind of stabilize my head and shoulders, and I was able to start knitting right away, which was a pleasant surprise. So yeah, I am off of work this week. This is my last week of medical leave. I'm doing pretty good. I find that I get fatigued really easily. So getting up and moving around and doing kind of simple tasks is very tiring. Putting a load of dishes away really bothers my shoulder. But luckily I work a desk job, so hopefully going back to work next week won't be too much of a problem. We'll see. I do think by the end of sitting at my desk all day, I might be a little uncomfortable, but I'm not too worried about it. And yeah, I'm excited to kind of get back to my normal physical life. I haven't really been exercising the last few months. Before my surgery, I kind of had to protect this area and not put too much strain on it. So I'm excited to, get back into, some of the more physical things that I enjoy doing, that I haven't been able to do the last couple months. So yes, that is my health update for you. Everything is going great, and hopefully this is all put to rest now. Yeah, I'm really happy. Things went really well. So as we get into the crafty content today, a little bit of a disclaimer. I worked on a lot of things over the last few weeks. So, I had surgery, and then I came home from the hospital, and that was when the news about Ukraine had come out, and the world just felt so uneasy. And I, to make myself feel better, just gave myself permission to work on whatever I wanted to. So for about a week and a half, I think I was working on a different project every day. I picked up some old projects, I started some new projects, and just did a little bit here and there. And so I'm not gonna show you everything I worked on over the last 2 weeks. It would be, like I said, a little bit of work on a lot of different things, and I feel like this episode would just drag on forever. Over the last couple days, I have kind of settled in on a couple different projects, kind of getting back into the more monogamous knitting that I am trying to cultivate in my life. So I'm just gonna show you my one knitting project, And then I also have a new sewing project that I started. And then I think I'm also gonna start doing an acquisitions section at the end of every episode. That's not something I've really done in the past because I buy a lot of craft supplies and I felt really weird showing all of it. But I am really trying to cut down on the amount of yarn and fabric I buy, just because I have a lot and there are other things in life I would like to spend my money on. This month though, I've already bought a lot. So I will show you a little something that I bought at the end. And it's something I hope to cast on soon. But yes, we will go ahead and get started. All right, so over the last few days, I have started and have been working on a new sweater project. In my, post-surgery, frenzy of working on a bunch of different projects, I was working on some sweaters that were a little bit more rustic. They were all gray, and while I do love a rustic gray sweater, it just wasn't the mood I was in. We've been having some really nice spring weather, knock on wood. It's gonna be a little cold the next couple days. We are in what me and my friends affectionately call fake spring, where the weather just like teeters back and forth between winter and spring. But over the weekend, it's gonna start to be kind of nice. And by nice, I mean nice for March in Wisconsin. So like 40s, 50s. Anyways, it feels like spring is coming, which excites me a lot. So anyways, like a rustic gray sweater to me is more of a fall winter project, and I really wanted something that just like got me in this like springy mood. So I decided to start a new sweater. I am making the Tove sweater by Gregoria fibers, and I had purchased yarn for this particular sweater a long time ago. So I already had the yarn, and I, picked this sweater based on the yarn because the yarn is what like really gave me all of the spring feels. So I am knitting this sweater out of Knitting for Olive soft silk mohair in the Flamingo colorway. And this is like really pink. Usually I tend to like more muted colors, but I don't know, there's something about this shade of pink that I really, really enjoy. And yes, so Knitting for Olive's silk mohair is 70% mohair, 30% silk. And I did want to call out Knitting for Olive for being a really ethical mohair choice. My understanding is a lot of mohair bases are not the best for the animals involved. So you've got the mohair side of things where, and I don't know the specifics, I'm sure we can research it, but the mohair goats are not treated the best in order to preserve the softness of their hair. So there's that, and then also there's silk in this, and a lot of silk production involves killing the silkworms. But Knitting for Olive, and you can read all about this on their website, they source their mohair and silk from ethical places, so no harm comes to the animals and they are treated well. So if that is something that is important to you, I definitely recommend giving Knitting for Olive a try. Yeah, I am a really big fan of this yarn. So anyways, here is what I have so far. The sweater is knit with the Mohair held triple. So I've got 3 balls here, and it is perhaps my most favorite thing I've ever knit. So it starts off with, you know, it's obviously bottom up. It's got this like really long section of twisted rib, which I'm not the biggest fan of doing twisted rib. However, I enjoyed knitting with the Mohair held triple so much that, I don't know, it's just like so soft. So anyways, even, you know, doing that like dreaded twisted rib was enjoyable. And then as we get up into the body of the sweater, it is a full fisherman's rib, which is just producing the most. The fabric itself is super squishy, and then on top of that, having it knit out of a mohair it's a dream. I have no words for how like soft and squishy this is. And yeah, it's an all over rib. I find the fisherman's rib really therapeutic. It is a ribbing, which I know a lot of people don't like ribbing. However, it makes kind of a looser fabric, and I find that because of those looser stitches, it's just like a little bit more enjoyable to knit than standard ribbing. I don't know why, but you know, again, this is an all over knit sweater and I'm just in love with working on it. The flow of it is just really, really doing something for me. So yes, I am knitting the size 5. I should have looked this up before I started filming. I'm knitting the size 5, which I think gives me like 7 inches of positive ease. It is an oversized dropped shoulder sweater. It's meant to be a little cropped. I will probably lengthen it a little bit just because I am quite tall, and so even though this is supposed to be cropped, I think I will need to lengthen it in order to like have it even reach the top of my pants. Yes, what else? I did not gauge swatch for this, which you should never do. I am a big proponent of gauge swatching, but again, I was in a bit of a frenzy and I just wanted to start this. So I am using the recommended needle size. So I did the twisted ribbing in a size 6, and now I am doing the fisherman's rib in a size 8. And it's fitting really well. I've tried it on, and it is a little weird trying on a bottom-up sweater because like you put it on and it just looks like a little belt. But the ribbing is sitting nicely and it's hugging me nicely, and then the fisherman's rib is kind of ballooning out, which is the style of the sweater. You know, it's meant to have kind of like more fitted like hem and cuffs, and then just like a big voluminous fisherman rib at the bottom and then also at the sleeves. Sorry, I feel so winded because lung capacity. What else to say about this? I don't know, it's going pretty quickly. It helps that I am not working right now and can just knit all day, but yes, I'm hoping I can finish this up before it gets too warm. I imagine wearing this with, you know, some high-waisted jeans and having it be a really nice transitional piece for the spring. Because like I mentioned, spring in Wisconsin can get a little blurry. We definitely still have the potential for some really chilly days. But if not, this will definitely be something I can wear in the fall once it gets cool again. So, yes. Knit this sweater. It's so, I'm so thrilled with the texture that this is producing. I don't know if you can see how like thick that fabric is. It's so squishy. Anyways, that is that. And that is it for knitting. Like I said, a lot of other things got worked on, but my heart now lies with my Tove sweater, and I see myself working on that pretty monogamously until it is finished. And I'm not leaving the house these days, so there's no need for any sort of secondary portable project. So that brings us to sewing, which I feel like I have not had a sewing segment in a really long time. It's not something I have done lately. But I don't know, there is something about the springtime that makes me want to sew, especially garment sewing. I think like knowing that the summer is coming and knowing that I'm not going to be able to really wear any knitwear that I produce for the season makes me want to sew some more summery clothes, and then, you know, that allows me to then wear the things that I have made pretty immediately. I've also been very inspired lately to really prioritize like a handmade wardrobe and like picking pieces that I know will fit well into my wardrobe and be like real staples that I wear all the time. And yeah, I do think sewing plays a pretty crucial role in that endeavor, because I do think sewing is just a little bit more versatile than knitting. Knitting tends to be a lot of cold weather pieces, which obviously I love a sweater as much as the next person. But you know, we do have 4 seasons here. And so, you know, transitional seasons and then the summertime, you're not going to get to wear a ton of knitted pieces. And so obviously if you want handmade things, you probably have to sew something. So I have purchased a lot of fabric, which is not here yet, but I'll definitely show you next time. And I have plans to really start prioritizing some garment sewing over the next couple months. So to start, my first thing I plan to make is the Hadley top by Grainline Studio. And it comes in a couple different views. So it's got view A, which is a long sleeve pleated back. And then there's view B, which is a tank top. And then it's got this really nice soft V neckline. My plan is to do a little bit of a hodgepodge of the two views. I really like the neckline of view B. I definitely want it to be a soft V shape, but I really want this to have sleeves. But I don't want these sleeves. I want it to be short sleeved. Basically, my vision is just a really nice quintessential light summer top. And I'm definitely more of a t-shirt girl than a tank top girl. There's definitely places for tank tops. However, I gravitate more towards things that have sleeves than not. So anyways, basically I want to make view B, but put a short sleeve on it. So I have been playing around with that a little bit over the last couple days. Yesterday, I assembled my pattern, which was physically exhausting in my current state, but I assembled the pattern. I traced out my pieces, and I think what I'm gonna do, shortening a sleeve is not too tricky, and it looks like the sleeves from view A will fit nicely into the armhole openings of view B. So I'm gonna make a muslin either this afternoon or tomorrow and just test. I like to make muslins for patterns I've never made before, just to test fit before I cut into my nice fabric, but then also for something like this where I'm, Frankensteining the pattern a little bit, I will want to double check and make sure that the sleeves that I cut out will fit into the other view. It looks like they'll fit pretty nicely, but it's always good to make sure. And then, adding sleeves to a tank top, I always like to do like a bit of an arm cross just to make sure that like it's not too tight across the back, which is a problem I have with a lot of store-bought shirts. But my fabric that I plan to use is this cotton. And I purchased this from JoAnn Fabrics, which if you are not familiar, I don't know if JoAnn's is everywhere. Maybe it is, and everyone knows this, but JoAnn's is a big box craft store here in the US. And so this is like probably not the best quality fabric. However, it feels really nice. It is 100% cotton, and it's got these cute little polka dots. And I don't know if you can tell, but the polka dots are slightly raised and they feel a bit velvety. So I washed this yesterday, gave it a little bit of an iron. So yeah, I don't know. Can you envision it like I can? Just a cute polka dot light summer t-shirt. And yes, my ideas behind like how that would fit into my wardrobe, I can imagine wearing it with jeans, but then I can also imagine wearing it with maybe a solid colored skirt. I think after I sew this, my next project will be a wrap skirt out of this like pine green viscose I have, and I feel like this would look really cute with kind of a voluminous dark green skirt. Amongst other things, this is a white fabric, so it will coordinate with a lot of different solid colors. So that is my plan. So yeah, I'll test the muslin out over the next day or two. Sewing is still, it's a bit more of a physical task than knitting. And so like I said, my shoulder gets very tired very easily. So I can't sew for too long. But hopefully I can put together a muslin over the next couple days and then start cutting out my actual fabric pieces. So yeah, expect to see a bit more sewing over the next couple months because I am really inspired and really raring to go. I love sewing. Now it is time for acquisitions. I've never done a section like this before. I have been very inspired. So there is a relatively new pattern out called the Billie Pullover by Sari Nordlund. It's this really gorgeous all over cabled sweater. And since I saw it, I have really wanted to make it. And then I was watching the Creabea podcast with Rebecca, which if you don't watch that one, you should really check it out. Rebecca has a really amazing aesthetic that aligns with mine. Everything she makes, I just fall in love with and want to make for myself. But she recently, in the last couple months, knit the Billie pullover in a kind of forest green colorway. And I just fell in love with it. I'm not typically much of a green person. However, seeing that sweater in a green yarn was really great. I tend to like flock towards the neutral colors, and then occasionally I will see a sweater in a non-neutral and just like fall in love and need it immediately. So I, over the last week, finally purchased some yarn to make the Billie pullover in a shade of green that I really like. So I bought one of my, desert island yarns, one of my absolute favorites, which is Brooklyn Tweed Shelter. And this is the Artifact colorway. And Brooklyn Tweed yarns, part of the reason I love them is they're very nuanced. You can probably tell that there's a lot of different, supporting colors along with that green. We've got some yellow, some blue. Their colors are really, really beautiful to me. This is more of a rustic yarn, so while I want to cast on the Billie pullover, maybe next, I also could see myself waiting a little bit because, like I mentioned, I just want to knit very like springy and summery colors, and this is not it. This is definitely more of a fall, winter thing. However, I really want to knit the Billie pullover, so this might be my next cast on. If not, I'll probably definitely cast it on a little later in the year. But yes, I purchased 11 skeins of this. My size in the sweater, I calculated it out to need just about 10 skeins. However, the sweater does look a little cropped in the pictures I have seen, and I tend to like to lengthen things anyways because I'm a tall lady. So yeah, I got an extra skein just so I can be comfortable with the amount of yarn I have. I do not like playing yarn chicken. It stresses me out and I don't like it. So again, Brooklyn Tweed Shelter, this is their worsted weight, or one of their worsted weights, and this is the colorway Artifact. And I think that is it for me today. If you have made it this far and you liked what you saw today, please be sure to subscribe to my channel. Hit the notification button if you want to be informed when I post new videos. If you are a returning viewer, please give this video a thumbs up. Leave me a comment. I love hearing from you all and interacting with you all. I plan on recording again in about 2 weeks. As we head into the warmer months, I am thinking about switching back to a bi-weekly recording schedule. We just tend to be a lot busier in the summer than we are in the winter, so I am not going to put any sort of pressure on myself to record every week. So yes, you can expect to hear from me in a couple weeks. Please take care of yourselves. Put the news down if it is making you stressed out. Do something nice for yourself. Hug your loved ones extra close, and I will chat with you all soon. Thanks, everyone.